Three, two, one, roll the footage.
What's happening, everybody? Sean here, one of the co-hosts of the Elevate podcast. I'm so excited to be joined by one of the other amazing co-hosts, Mr. Simon Severino. Simon, how's it going today?
Yo, Sean. Hey, everyone. What's up?
Yeah. So excited to be here with you guys again, back for our next live show. Today, we're talking about a topic that I think is going to be very captivating for a lot of you. Zoom calls versus phone calls, the goods, the bads, the uglies, everything in between. We're going to share all of that stuff with you today. And by the end of this session, be prepared because we're going to choose one or the other and which one will be optimal for you, for your business. And again, what is the Elevate podcast all about, Simon? The Elevate podcast is about how we lift founders up to the next level. So we empower them, we empower you as you're listening to this with all the tips, the tools, the techniques, the tactical, the practical, everything that you'd ever need to know in order to grow your business to the next level. That's what we're about here today. So Simon, just let's do a quick win, man. Like, what's a big win for today? And then we'll kick this thing off.
A big win off today or of the last week?
Yeah, right now. What's a big win of the last week?
Oh, our book. You see this book? The publisher sold the rights to Russian, so it came out in English, and then last year was edition of Chinese, and now it's Russian, whatever that means.
Yeah, well, how many languages is that now for your book, man?
English, Chinese, Russian.
3 languages. Like, most people dream about maybe just publishing a book for the first time. I know I'm in that category. I actually have like a book written. I have like 60,000 words on a Google Doc, but it's just not the right timing yet. So, and I have like another 5 to come. But you've already done the publishing thing. So like, just quickly, like, what was that publishing experience like? Was it challenging the first time you did it? I mean, there's a lot of people probably thinking about writing books. So what would you tell them?
It's terrible. It's 6 months of pain and hard work. It's like bringing a child to the world. It's 6 months of labor, and then when the book is ready, you have 6 months of promotion. Now, for some people, promotion is also a very painful thing to do. For me, that's the fun part, because my promotion was mainly being on 800 podcasts. So basically every day I was on 8 podcasts for 100 days. I like it. I feel like the Rolling Stones. I'm on tour. But if you don't like that, then you have another 6 months of labor. So think twice before you write a book.
8 podcasts per day for 100 days. That should be like the new 75 hard challenge, man. That's awesome. Like, what a crazy thing. What inspired you to do that?
Getting the message out, right? When you write a book, you want to help people know about it.
So
right?
Did you do the podcast? Did you do the podcast after the book came out or before?
I scheduled them during the writing phase, because that's part of the promotion phase, that you start scheduling them before. The most important promotion stage happens 2 weeks before it goes live on Amazon, because the week -1 is pretty important on Amazon. And so emails and podcasts have been the main promotion strategy.
Sure.
And so emails with affiliate partners, week -2 and -1. And then from week 0, it's being on podcasts. It's probably the best thing you can do for a book, better than PR or whatever. It's really being on the new radio, right? And on the new TV, and that's podcasts.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty great segue into what we're talking about today. So we're going to kind of like switch gears here and kind of move into this, right? So by the way, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything, drop them in the chat roll below. We'll be pulling out Q&A. We do a Q&A at the end. We do a lightning round that is still to come. It's like some fancy questions that we're going to throw at Simon here today. And I'll answer them too if you like. But for today, we're going to dive into Zoom calls versus phone calls. Which one's better? Simon just talked about being on 8 podcasts every single day for 100 days. Were all of these podcasts on Zoom only, or were they on by phone, or how did you do them all?
Zoom, StreamYard, and all this Zoom-like software that people like to use to go live. Some are on Ecamm, OBS. But yeah, it's always with video, even if they don't use it on YouTube. But most people, like myself, they reuse their audio podcast as a YouTube episode anyways,
Yep.
because it's smart to do, right? You have that content already. And so none of them was on the phone actually.
Cool.
And
So
a few of them asked me to be on the phone. I didn't do that because I like the body and the presence of as many senses as possible, right, to get the message across.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that. So like I have a list of pros and cons for each one. So I'm just gonna maybe throw them at you. I'll give a little bit of my perspective too, Simon. But the first one is what you just kind of talked about is this face-to-face connection. So by the way, if you're listening to this and you just heard what we talked about, Simon was on podcast for 100 days in a row, 8 different podcasts every single day. What's really unique about that is all the people that interviewed him can use the video for a YouTube feed or something like that, and then they can rip the audio, and now you can actually attack or target a different group of listeners, which is also going to grow your network pretty significantly. So I think at the end of the day, I would say the best answer is both, but today we're talking Zoom versus phone. So let's get into it. So Zoom calls, one of the first things, or maybe should we start with phone first? Let's start with phone. I think phone. Okay. Um, the first benefit that I see with a phone call would be convenience and speed, right? Because you don't need to be technical. You don't need to have like other anything other than like a cell phone, and you can just pick up and you can use it. There's no need for setting up cameras or finding a background or maybe even worry about like a Wi-Fi connection or something like that. So it's like, yeah, that would be the first one. So would you say that phone is more convenient and fast than a Zoom call, Simon? And your thoughts?
It's quicker specifically for boomers. Think of people who are in their 60s right now, or 70s
Mm.
or 80s. And if you are targeting those kind of people, like senior executives and people who are on boards of directors, etc., many of those, they are used to phone and they're not that used that much to Zooms. Only when they are in a specific room and they have their team setting it up. But as you say, if you want to quickly grab them on their boat, like I have a guy who is my client, and he calls me at 11 p.m. from his boat on the Mediterranean. And I say, can we schedule Zoom calls? And he goes, he doesn't even answer the question. Like he continues talking, and he has this idea of for the next venture, and he just wants to talk about that. And he sends me spreadsheets with his ideas, and I try to tell him that a spreadsheet is not the best place to put ideas, right? Because it's not built for that. But he's in his 80s. He has a very big boat. We made the last venture very successful. He wants to start the next one. He doesn't want to look at my calendar, right? He's eating fish. There is some champagne. He walks away for 10 minutes. He calls me. That's it. So it's easier by phone.
Okay, there you go. So it definitely for I think you said that what was important that I took away, other than the awesome story about your client on a boat, was this idea that the different generations are maybe more preferentially treating one method versus the other. So like Zoom versus phone. And if you've been grown up with, I know I have a lot of people that were in the auto industry as an example. And I see the people in the auto industry like taking a long time to start adopting things like Zoom calls and tech because they're all used to nope, just get on the phone, bang cold calls, get it done, right? So it was this culture that was just beat into our heads to like use phone. And actually, I'm guilty of this because I can share like a story when we started our first software company. How it worked was we were running paid ads to cold traffic, driving them to a webinar, and then they were scheduling a phone call because Zoom wasn't, when I started, Zoom wasn't even a thing. It wasn't even around. And so I was closing deals on the phone. And here's the numbers just so that you guys are very clear about this. My average close rate during that time was high 30%, right? So almost 40%. When I switched to Zoom, okay, so it was like 38.9% or something was like my average close rate over like a 2-year period. I switched to Zoom, and here's what I'll tell you. From the moment that I switched to Zoom until like a week ago when I looked at all my data, because I'm a nut and I track every single thing, every close rate I've ever done for the last several years, I know it.
Oh, we didn't realize when you said 38.9%.
Correct. That was my close rate on the phone, right? When I switched to Zoom, My average close rate for the last like 4.5 years has been 52.3% or something like
Boom.
that. And that the only difference, I didn't change anything. I might have got a little bit more experienced, maybe learned one or two more things, but like, guys, that's a massive lift, right?
And
And I
it's in
think
this
there's a,
setting, right? We see your
yeah,
books
Zoom setting.
and your
Yep.
accomplishments. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get into that. So, next piece about phone calls would be kind of more low pressure. Would you say phone calls are lower pressure than Zoom calls?
One more thing to add, because there is this boomer generation that just wants to call and no Zooms. And I
Hmm.
have also a younger generation. For example, I'm trying to find somebody to do my thumbnails for YouTube, and I usually find them on X. And then I
Hmm.
message them on X, hey, would you do my thumbnails? I love your work. And they go, yeah, sure. And I say, okay, can we have a quick Zoom call? And they go, I don't do Zoom calls. Can we message? So those younger guys, I
Whoa.
guess they are,
Whoa.
19. And for them, calling is too old school. They want to message. And I say, hey, I don't know you. I'm not going to wiring money to a stranger. I want to get to know you, right? And I go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do that by chat, which is strange for me, but it seems normal for some of those. So
That makes it actually kind of hurts my heart because if I think about all these younger guys coming up, they're building relationships through a screen using words versus, you know, man, that one's a hard one for me because I just feel like now, what have you done? You might have learned a greatest skill and you might become the best DM copywriter of all times and be able to close deals from any which way from Sunday. But how's your social skills? How's the balance or the harmony in the rest of your life when you go out and you actually communicate into the world? So if you're listening to this and you're in one of those zones of like just DMing people, I would encourage you to step a little bit outside your shell and try something you haven't done before. Get on a Zoom call with a prospect, see how it goes. It's probably going to go terrible your first time. I'll just tell you that. Simon will say the same thing. When you start something for the first time, you suck at it. And you do it enough, and then you suck a little bit less. And then you do it so much that you actually become good. And that's the process for just about anything that you're trying to learn in terms of skills. And so I think that happens with phone calls, happens with Zoom calls. So are some nuances and some difference. But in terms of like low pressure, I think DMs, like you said, probably the lowest pressure of all. Phone calls second because you don't have some of these filters of visual. And then Zoom would probably be the highest pressure. Would you agree with that?
probably because you're staring in the face of the other, right? We're staring at
Yeah.
each other. It's the highest pressure. And if you're non-native in the language, for example, you're in some country and you're a freelancer and you want to get to a US client, but you have an accent, then they try to hide. It's highest pressure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's move on. The next one is words, talking about words that we're using, words in the DMs, words on calls, words on Zoom. One of the things that I think um, supports phone calls over Zoom calls is this ability to eliminate the distraction of body language and visual. So if you can like take out one or two of the modalities that people actually communicate through, then it becomes a focus on the auditory side when it comes to words. Now, I know Simon's trained probably more than me, but I've trained at least 5,000 sales professionals. And when I trained them, I was so strict on them. Here's what I would make them do because we only had phones at the time. I have these lists of all these different words and phrases. And the salespeople that I would work with and train, I would make them memorize these phrases and words, and I would make them go through and learn what's the difference between an auditory person, a visual person, a kinesthetic person, an audio digital person. And we would talk through these four, I call them modalities because that's what they are. And everybody has a pattern. And so when I started on phone calls, and this is a little spin kick super hack if you've ever studied any of this stuff, we've got V for visual, we've got A for audio, we've got K for kinesthetic, and then AD for audio digital. And every person has a codex. This is how you break the bond and rapport with anybody that you're talking
A
to.
love
Now,
language, right? Yeah.
yeah, so this is a challenging thing to do when you're in a conversation unless you've had lots of practice, but everybody has a pattern that they speak. They'll say a visual word, an audio word, and then a kinesthetic word, and then maybe like an audio digital. So that person's codex would be VA, right? Because it covered all of them. So if you can decipher somebody when you're listening, and this is what I used to do on sales calls, is I would listen to these people and I would decipher what order did they say the phrases in. First, did they say an audio phrase and then a kinesthetic and then a visual phrase? Well, then
Can
I
you
know
give us
that
an
person is,
example? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, of course. So, hey, Simon, how does that sound? Sound is an audio word, right? Now, let me show you this is a visual phrase,
Yeah.
right? Oh, how does that make you feel is a kinesthetic. So if I just said that to you, it would have been AVK. I would have identified that on the call. And now I know if that's me and Simon's the pro, he knows that I'm a AVK, and then he can repeat the same predicates and phrases back in my codex, and I'll buy from him every time. It works. I've just tested it for thousands and thousands of tests. And so I know that if you can define someone's code. So anyway, that's really deep into modalities and some other things, kind of interesting about languaging. But have you ever gone that deep on VAKAD, like the visual audio kinesthetic stuff? Do you teach that, Simon?
I went deep into that, and my first 10 years when I was giving leadership trainings in St. Gallen to executives, I would use the NLP 10 and then later 12 categories, and that touches some of these. When I train my team, I've simplified it because I don't want to train them for months. I want to get them going as quickly as possible. I try to make it simple and fast so that they can start calling longer. So I created a lazy version of this, which is green, blue, red. Green buyers, blue buyers, red buyers. And we can go into that right now or later on.
Yeah, I mean, give us a quick, I'm interested.
Yeah, so you meet them, they talk to you, and we want to know in the first 5 minutes of the conversation without being overly in our head. We want to be present and go with the flow and have a natural conversation. But after 5 minutes, we will know if they use red words, green words, or blue words. Red words is, in DISC, that would be a high D, a dominant person. So impatient, results. Words that they love are fast, results, execution, speed, sprint. They love these words. Delegation, report. If it's a weekly report, they hate a monthly report. It's too late. So those are red qualities. And you know that you have a red person. They're also talking fast. Their sentences are short. And they're usually CEO from their role or head of sales from the role, right? And you have a red person, so now you know what to avoid. Don't talk long sentences. Don't socialize too much. Don't build rapport. They don't care about the city or whatever. If you are kids or dogs, they don't care. Tell them what you can do for them, how quickly it can start, what's the outcome. And they want immediately to go there. Think a New Yorker executive on your call. Dude, you have 20 seconds to get to what you want to say. That's a very red person. So, and a green person is very social, reliable, is more of an HR kind of person. They want to meet. They say, oh, yes, I've been in Kansas City with my cousin. And so stay longer there because they love that. And, hobbies, and if they have kids, etc., indulge in that, splash in that. They love it. And a green person has time. A green person will not decide quickly, so you will need anyways at least 3 more calls. So relax. You have all the time. And you will need all the time because they will also ask somebody else. They will ask for opinions. They will ask their spouse before they buy. They will set up committees for deciding. So you have all the time. Relax, have a drink, and stay in their pattern, right? So that's the green people. And then there is the blue people. And blue is very analytical and cautious. Blue wants to see a contract and will actually read the contract. Green doesn't even understand the contract, doesn't care about the contract. And red doesn't read the contract because they are too impatient. I don't read stuff for 3 minutes. Tell me what's in there, right? And then uh, and then I sign it without reading it. That's the red person. But the blue person is actually reading that.
Crazy.
And so you will need to send it to them. They will to discuss it. A red person, you have them sign immediately a PandaDoc or a DocuSign during the meeting. With a green person, with a blue person, you will need multiple calls. Don't pressure them. That would backfire. If you pressure red, that's positive. They go with the pressure. They love pressure. And so you will escalate quickly and they will sign immediately. Also, they decide alone. But green and blue wants to read all the details, needs facts, numbers, loves spreadsheets, loves everything that's numerical, will read other case studies. Green will talk to testimonials anyways. Red will never talk to testimonials. They say, send me 2 testimonials. We'll never have a look at it and we'll decide. Green will say, who can I talk to? And they will actually talk to those people, but just because they love talking. And blue will try to read as much as they can. They don't love talking, but they want facts and details. And so they will go deeper and double check and do a proper due diligence.
So let me just ask. First of all, I love all of that. I taught extended disc, which is you just missed the color yellow in there, but I don't know where that yellow. But yeah, so,
I simplified it into.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I love the three color modality game is easier. It's fun. It's kind of like here's the how you put somebody in one bucket and then communicate in that style to that person. I love that. So with all that said, would you say the red, blue, green works better for Zoom? Or works better for phone?
In Zoom, it's easier because you have more material. Like if I look at you right now, I see that behind you. Where first I see that you're a reader, right? So there is some element of blue in you.
Of course.
But then, and so I know already something. I see the tension of your body. So I see if you're impatient, highly on your toes, or if you are more relaxed. And so if I have a chance at green and at hanging out with you, if you're super relaxed and have a tea, I know, oh wow, I have a green chance, right? But if you're super tense and doing your emails on the side, then this is such a red conversation, and I see it immediately. And then I see that behind you, you have successes, numerical successes. So I know there is a red element, and showing results is very red. So you see, before you said one word, I already get information. So that's why Zoom is so much easier.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so we got probably another 10 minutes or so. We're going to run this thing. So we're going to get into our lightning round here in a minute. But a couple more topics that I wanted to talk about. We already talked about closing rates. Flexibility. Let's talk about flexibility. I think that's interesting. I think phone calls have increased flexibility versus Zoom because you don't need to schedule a meeting. You don't need to make time and be in front of your computer. Some people do it on their phones, which is a complete waste. I think if you're doing a Zoom on a phone and you're walking around, it kind of loses the effect. So I would say phones kind of win on the flexibility side. What would you say from your perspective, Simon?
I have many calls with Californians during the week around Los Angeles. And they go, they have no shirt and they're working out while they're talking to me. There is one of the members in the 200K club. He's in Greece, and he was on his surfboard, like stand up paddling while talking to us. So I see all kinds of stuff, and it's fun actually.
Okay, so you would say from flexibility, then maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I guess in your case it's either or, it doesn't matter. Are you kind of 50-50 on it?
When that happens, I know, okay, this is a green session. This is a session where nothing massive is going to happen. Okay, let's go with the flow, right? Because you can either say, hey, let's stop it and reschedule, or you go, okay, let's play green. Let's go with the flow. The positive effect, so the negative is they will not sign any deal in that session. But the positive is you will know a lot more about their friends and family and their life and what they care about. So, and that's also important information, right? So I will just
I just
relax
actually
if I see
let me
that.
jump in. I just want to jump in right there, and I want to talk about that because I think that like some people freak out when they hear that, and they're like, "Well, if I'm not going to get on the phone and close the deal, I don't want to be on the phone." And I think this comes back to this idea of like, as a sales professional, it is imperative. It's like the number one thing for you to develop patience. If you don't have patience, don't be in sales because here's the statistics. And Simon just smashed it, right? He gets on a phone call and he doesn't ever think about closing a deal on the first call unless it's actually the right time. And the only way that time can be identified is if there's a mutual identification of this is the right time for them to move forward with you, right? And so when he gets on a phone call, no wonder he's a pro, no wonder he closes millions and millions of dollars because he doesn't have what they call commission breath. And I think a lot of these salespeople, they get on the line and they're like, give me your money, give me your money, give me your money. That's what they're thinking. Although they're not saying those things, that's what creates this weird energy that you can feel across the screen. And so I think like what you said, Simon, is so valuable. If you get on a line with a prospect and you're able to identify red, blue, green, then you know, like if it's a red person, there's a probability that you're going to be able to close on that call. But if they're not the other, if they're the other colors, it may take 2, 3, 4, 10, 15, 20, right? What's the average sales cycle? How many days does it take from initial call to close deal for you? And that's a metric as a sales professional that you should always work on, right? I know for 42 days, right around 42 days is the period of time it takes for me to close pretty much any deal that I start from start to finish. That's an average. Sometimes it takes 0 days, sometimes it takes 100. But the idea is touch points. So all those people that are green, that like lists and spreadsheets and tactical, think of it this way. 13 touch points gets 80% of your sales. 13 touch points gets 80% of your sales. Okay. So if you're a sales pro and you're like, oh man, if I can't close it in 4, I suck, I'm out. No, that's not you, right? That's just the person you're talking to. And so just remember, like, if you don't have the patience to go 13 or more touch points with somebody, maybe sales isn't the right thing for you. Simon.
That's why I love this. And 13 is, I think, very accurate because you need that time to let it sink in, to find different angles. You want to find out, do I like this person? Do I trust this person? Are they legit? Does it work for me? Did they work with people who are similar to me, who are like me? And that takes 12, 13 experiences to find that out. That's why and I am very impatient, similar to you. So I'm learning to go with the flow and to relax, and that's why green, yellow, red. When I see a lot of green, I relax. I have my tea here, etc. But I created systems that do what I am bad at doing. I don't want to hang out forever with strangers. I actually want to just talk to the right people at the right time and move on quickly and start doubling their revenue. That's and you see it here, 200K. So that's my language, right? So it's moving forward and creating breakthroughs. That's how I am wired. So I've created videos. That's why I love YouTube. I do videos on YouTube. I have a series of emails. And those emails, they take time and explain concept and break down things from sales and marketing. And so by the time, so they have scheduled a call with me, I'm a Zoom guy. And by the time our call happens, which is, let's say, 8 days later, or sometimes 16 days later, by the time they will have had 7 experiences with me already. So, and I don't close in one. I in our team, I'm the one that closes most in one, but it's every 50th close is a close in one. So there will be a second call. By the time they come to the second call, they have watched 5 videos, heard me 3 times on a podcast while they are commuting or working out. And so when we talk now for the second time, now we are in the right setting. We are around 15 contact points, and now we are ready to commit to working together.
And I just want to emphasize why Simon is so good. One of the many reasons of why he's a total genius at this space is because the touch points that we're talking about are not like Zoom calls. You don't need 13 Zoom calls in order to close somebody. What he was talking about was, hey, he maybe sent a friend request on social. That's one touch point. Maybe he gave him a compliment or liked one of his posts. That's another touch point. Then we send a friend request. That's 3, right? And then maybe we shoot a shot across the bow. That's 4. And then he said, okay, then you get on the first call. That's your 5th touch point. And then he sent 3, 3 videos, or no, so it was 3 emails they got, and then another 5 emails. So like, look at all these touch points that are just counting up. That's why Simon closed so many deals, right? So again, if you're a sales professional and you're thinking about this, just remember to have the patience to build a system that actually walks your prospect through all of those touch points so that by the time you get to that 2nd call, 5th call, 8th call, like it closes. That's what it's about, right? So, and I think that's really, really important that using different modalities, send them words, send them visuals, call them on the phone, leave them voice notes, right? Drop them a DM. All these things are really, really valuable when you start to hit somebody from all the different points. They automatically think like, whoa, this person is a total pro, hitting me from every direction. They must really want my business. I'm encouraged. I'm engaged. Let's get started, right? So there's that kind of piece. All right. We're coming
I'm
to the end here.
curious
Go ahead.
because if you don't know Flowchat, that's the best software ever for creating touch points via DMs. Maybe you can share a little bit how you use that for creating touch points.
Yeah. I mean, we actually build those touch points right into the process. So if you're a social seller and you use social media to find clients and connect and close deals, you've got paid ads, you've got webinars, challenges, summits, all these other things. And it takes money, time, effort to do any of those things. And you still need traffic regardless, right? Even if you're running paid ads, people will watch your paid ad. They might like it or comment on it, but not everyone's going to click on it. You're going to get 3 to 5% of people to click on it. If they see that ad 2 or 3 or 4 times, yeah, maybe they would click on it. But what happens is they get tired of the ad and they say, don't show it to me anymore. And then your reach drops and your expenses go up. So that's why paid ads becomes kind of problematic in that you have to be producing new ad material all the time. With DMs, right? It's just a DM. It's a one-to-one conversation. And if I could just reach out to Simon, very private, very personal, low pressure, no tech barrier. It's just a chat. And we build what we call pipelines, which is the same. We call them flows, right? A pipeline flow of a sequence of messages. So thinking of it like a conveyor belt is like, here's your conveyor belt with the 13 touch points. What's the first one? Oh, let's like a post. Right. Next one is, okay, now they've moved along. Like, let's send a connection request. And then the next one. And so we actually automate the whole thing. We use AI over it. So it's a really great tech. It's actually pretty much disrupted the way people use direct messaging for business these days. So I love it. I've been at it. It's my 2nd software product. It's a cool thing. So if you want more information, just hit me up on socials and we'll fill you in. But thank you for that, Simon. Let's dive into the game. We're going to do our lightning round now. This is the lightning round. How it works is like this. Simon's never played this before, and I'm making up as we go. I'm going to give you a category, and you're going to say Zoom or phone, which one you prefer for that particular topic. Then we're going to tally them up, and then this is going to be the answer for you on which one is superior. And don't forget, next week, we're coming back with a pro, our other co-host. His name is Neil. He is an expert with audio tech video setup. And so we're going to dive back into this. If Zoom happens to win this contest, which I think it's favored, he's going to come back and share some best practices on what you can and how you can set up everything inside of your home audio office and so that you can win. So first category is this. Do you choose Zoom or phone? Focusing on words is the category. What would you say?
Still Zoom.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say phone.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next category is personal privacy. Which one's more personally?
And the reason is I see some words in your background right now that I wouldn't see on the phone.
Truth, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's focusing on words. Like, that's really interesting thought. Yes. Love that. Might maybe change my mind. Okay. Next one is personal privacy, Simon. What would you say is that category? Is it Zoom or phone?
Zoom.
Zoom for personal privacy. I'm also going to say phone on that one. And here's why. Is like a personal privacy is like it's.
Some people say, hey, my message is my personal life. But if I have booked myself on your Zoom or if my assistant booked us on a Zoom, that's more professional.
Interesting. So personal privacy, you would still say Zoom though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Next one, convenience and speed. I'm going to say phone. Okay,
Yeah.
you said phone. All right. Okay, next one would be follow up.
That's a good one. When I teach our people, it's always schedule a next meeting, so we don't have to follow up actually, because we are scheduled in the next Zoom meeting. But if, and sometimes it happens that we have to chase them, which is different than a follow up. But if we have to chase, well, then the phone is quicker.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I would say for follow up, I think ringless voicemail, anything non like I think Zoom, I would say Zoom. I'm going to say Zoom on that one. So
What's a
okay, and you
ringless voicemail?
ringless voicemail is where you use an autoresponder and you actually record a voice note, store it in the system, and then in any workflow, you can actually just trigger it. Just like an email would be sent to a prospect, you can have a ringless voicemail sitting in your CRM.
I
And when
never
that
listen to voicemails. Never.
okay, well then
Since
that's you, right?
years.
So there you go. You don't listen to voicemails. Your bin's probably full.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got follow up. We've got two there. All right, low or no pressure? Would you say Zoom or phone?
Low pressure phone.
Phone is low pressure. Okay, cool. I'm going to agree with you. All right, tech problems. Zoom or phone?
Let's go phone.
Well, I think there's more tech problems with Zoom, so I'm actually going to vote for Zoom myself. But yeah, so lack of tech problems would be then phone. Is that what you would say? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Next one will be body language.
Zoom.
Zoom. I'm going to agree with that one. Next one would be sharing visuals.
Oh, Zoom.
Zoom, 100%. And then the last one that I would say here is closing rate. If you did everything via phone or everything via Zoom, what would you say?
Zoom.
All right, cool. All right. So the totals, here we go. We got 2, 4, 5, 6 over here. We got 2, 6, 8, 10. Okay. With a score of 12 to 6, overwhelmingly more than half, the winner.
We have a winner.
Who do you think it is, Simon?
Zoom.
Zoom is the winner.
That's good for Neil because he's the Zoom OG.
Yeah, for sure. So, and again, guys, if you use Zoom or use phone and you have different thoughts of opinion here, please drop them in the comments. If you have any questions right now, we're going to get into some questions. I had one that I actually answered on the side, was a little bit more about body language stuff. But regardless, that's it. Simon, is there anything, closing words that you'd like to share with our audience here before we end the show?
No, thank you. I learned a lot. You reminded me myself of many more categories and modalities that are out there and can be trained and learned for salespeople. That's actually amazing that you do all that in that accuracy. I also learned about myself that I've become such a simplifier. First, because I'm a lazy guy, but then also because I prioritize speed for everything. So the quicker we can get going, the more I like tools. And so I learned a lot. You reminded me of some things. I learned about some things. And I hope that people check out FlowChat if they use anything in terms of outbound. I think that's a great idea. And I'm looking forward to have Neil from Portugal in here next week.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So founders, again, thank you for listening to this episode of the Elevate podcast, where we work very hard to lift founders up to the next level. Thank you for being here. Make sure you throw a subscribe, drop a comment, turn those notifications on, because definitely we're going to keep coming at you 1 week at a time, every single week, with something super valuable that you can use in your business today to get to the next level. And with that said, can't wait to see you next week. Ciao for now.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
This would run well